This is the final word. Women's Ashes Daily, the second one-day international, the seventh game of the multi-format series. Geoff Lemon and Melissa Story with you at Bristol. The show's brought to you by Westfield, London, and Westfield, Stratford City. And you, Melissa, are going to tell us about 100 overs, or thereabouts, maybe 98 overs, in the space of 30 seconds.
Okay, here we go. Australia win the toss, choose to bat first on this surface. They lose a few early wickets, then things start to rebuild slightly. At least Perry, 41, dropped so many times I can't even count. Beth Mooney anchored the innings, never quite looked comfortable, but it's a very slow pitch, and that was proven with the flurry of wickets towards the end for Australia. England got off to a flyer in reply, chasing 264. I'm going to put a question mark next to that one. And then the spin was introduced, and then England lost their heads. They were running around like headless chickens, didn't quite know what to do until Heavenite at the end got her team home with England's best batter, Kate Cross.
They've got there. They've won. England have won 3 in a row against Australia. They lost the Test match. They lost the first T20. They had to win 5 in a row to try to get the Ashes back. Well, they've ticked off the first 3, and the Australians are rattled.
They are, and we've seen a few, Australians walk past interviews. Alyssa Healy said after the last game, her reply was ouch to Australia losing. And, that's after 2 losses. We say it, and it's funny to laugh at, but this team does not know how to lose. I mean, Darcy Brown, Wareham, both of them have gone their entire ODI careers without losing a game. And then suddenly you get to the situation, as with any human when confronted with something they've never done before, it's hard to grapple with those emotions, but they're gonna have to figure out a way to get over themselves. I don't want to say it's ego, because I don't think it is. I think they're just accustomed to it. But, from equation of going, Australia just need to win 1 out of 5 to Australia need to win 1 out of 4. Well, it's getting a bit awkward now. They actually need to win 1 out of 3. And they've been very loud and clear. They don't just want to retain the Ashes, they want to win them. They've only got 2 games left and they need 2 wins, and they're looking like, quite honestly, a shell of a team.
Well, so at the end of late 2017, they played in that series. England came back and drew it at the end. Australia retained the trophy, and they were pissed. They were not happy at drawing that series. They do not want to do that again. They have to win both of the last 2 ODIs, and they should, on form. They should beat England twice in a row. But they're nervous now. They've got it in their heads. It was difficult out there today. It was one of those Bristol kind of pitches where it's brown and it's slow and it's tacky, and basically it's hard to play big shots. And the more pace came off the ball, the more difficult it was for players to hit through the line. Perry, I've never seen Perry bat so awkwardly, such a lack of timing. Like, it was brave in a way. She kept taking on the field, but I counted 3 times she gets it just over the field, twice she gets dropped, and the 3rd time the catch is finally held, and that's in the space of 41 runs.
Yeah, and I think for me, the thing which is bugging me is you always say, if you want to beat this Australian team, you can't make any mistakes. But actually, the T20 at Lords, England dropped, 4 catches again? Today they dropped 5 catches and a missed stumping.
6 and a missed stumping.
6 and a missed stumping. And yet, this amazing Australian team we talk up so much are still losing out to it. And, it's very comparable to the cricket I'm probably going to be playing next Saturday. A lot of drop catches and some pretty ugly batting, to be honest. It's not the kind of batting you'd expect from here. It's providing entertainment for sure, but I think Australia, as soon as they won the toss, they also had the advantage. Batting first, it was a good decision from Healy, because she could have very easily looked up, seen the grey skies, gone, it's going to swing a bit. But as you say, it's a nasty wicket, no offence to the Bristol ground staff, I love you all, but it was a nasty wicket, and the team chasing was always going to be at a disadvantage, and they managed to go around that decision in England in the end, but not without quite a lot of mistakes on the way. Again, England making plenty of mistakes.
Well, let's go through the middle of the innings, and the same sort of thing applies both times around, which is that anytime you try to put the foot down, you make mistakes, wickets fall. Beth Mooney's the one who adapts, she adjusts, she's so smart, she's so clever at assessing a situation. She was the key in that first T20 that Australia did win, would have lost that if not for her batting through until the second last ball. She's the key today, she makes 81 not out, she doesn't try to hit the ball, she doesn't over-attack too much, she works it around, she's happy to go at a strike rate of under 100 if it helps them get up towards a decent total. And then as wickets fall through the middle, people chip in. They come in. Talia McGrath makes 24. It's bowled by a good ball from Alice Capsey, and so on. But then Jonassen's key at the end. They put on 55 together, and then Georgia Wareham comes out and makes 12 off 6 balls. And even that felt important, just at giving Australia a boost. 263 they make. England have never chased a score that big, ever. So I think there have been 14, 15 chases of that magnitude in women's ODIs. England don't have one of them. So it should, even at the halfway mark where it felt like Australia hadn't batted quickly, it should still have been enough.
Yeah, it should have, and you know, people go back to the World Cup final and go, hang on a second, England got 350 plus in chasing that down. It's how have they never been successful chasing this kind of score? But you know, I think the biggest issue for England as well, and seeing how this pitch was spin, it was always going to be a challenge because you knew you had 10 overs of Gardner, who has been all over England this series so far. And I think for me, you know, you mentioned a few key partnerships for Australia, but I just want to give Beth Mooney a little hug. Just one where you hold on for a few seconds too long and you give her a bit of a squeeze at the end, and maybe then, like your grandma, just slip her a tenner in the hand when you say goodbye. Because
Slice of fruitcake.
Honestly, a very sherry-filled fruitcake, because you know she does everything we say in the commentary box, and everyone goes up here and goes, it's easier to say up here than do it. Beth Mooney proves it's not. She goes and plays a sensible innings, and I would say, you know, probably the most sensible. Yes, Heather Knight did a good innings as well, but she did make some very strange decisions, which I'm sure we'll go into. But Beth Mooney read this surface. She played well. Yes, people are going, she'd be disappointed not to get 100, but Australia would have got nowhere near that total if it was not for her just being a good cricketer.
Yeah.
Beth Mooney, gold star for you.
Yeah, it's not I mean, who cares about getting 100? It's about getting a decent score, a defendable score. And it was defendable, except Australia bowl absolute trash off the top. Horrendous. They conceded more extras in their first 3 overs than England conceded in 50 overs. You've got wides, you've got Darcy Brown going 5 wides down the leg side, you've got no balls. They open with Perry and Brown, so Megan Shute doesn't open the bowling, their best swing operator. Her main weapon is the incredible UFO in-swinger that she's able to bowl. They don't use her until later into the innings. By 12 overs, the time 12 overs have gone, they've conceded 108. They're going at 8.5 and over because they keep bowling seam up. And the ball's a bit newer, it's a bit harder, it's a bit easier to hit. And so, like, Elise Perry bowls a beauty to get rid of Sophia Dunkley in the 4th over, but after that, Capsey comes at it and just lays into them. And you've got Tammy Beaumont laying into them as well. And they don't turn to spin. This was the weirdest bit for me, is that Elisa Healy, like, you've just seen what happened. You've just seen the previous innings. You've seen how hard it is to time big shots when the pace is off. And you're like, let's keep going with pace on. Annabelle Sutherland, Darcy Brown, and they just keep getting smashed.
The weird thing as well with this correlation between Australia and wides for me, if you were looking at the T20s, now of the top 10 women's team, they're the team who's bowled the most T20s, and yes, they've got some bowlers who are a little bit quicker than some of the other teams, but for me, you know, it's not an excuse. And yes, in the past they've had that luxury of actually being able to put up such a large first innings total. You can bowl, you know, 10, 15, 20 wides in innings, but if teams are going to start, you know, getting a bit closer to the line, England, India in particular, these last 12 months, you know, you can't afford to do it. And I dislike that teams are they're not bold enough in their decisions. You know, spin dominates in women's cricket from the club level, domestic game, international level. Most openers will want to come in, they will want to get pace on the ball. Dunkley has had, you know, she's had a bit of a stinker with the shorter ball, but apart from that, the way she holds the bat, the kind of grip she has, she wants it fast, she wants it full, and when she gets off to a head start, you know, of course, as you say, bowled by a good ball today. But it's the same with Tammy Beaumont. She's a player who likes to drive. Why don't you mix things up? Give Ash Gardner the new ball. Just make them uncomfortable, and then England will squirm under the pressure of spin. And you have 3 spinners as well, you know, with Jonassen.
It could have had more. Actually, in a way, I was surprised that they go in with Jonassen, Gardner, Wareham. I thought you could have picked Alana King on this surface as well. Have a look down before you select your 11, because that could have been useful. And if you're worried about spinners going the journey with the field restrictions up, well, your seamers are getting smashed around the park, and no one seems to worry about that. And as soon as spin is introduced, 3 balls of spin, Beaumont hits Georgia Wareham to mid-wicket, caught, and then the wickets keep coming to spin. Jonassen gets into the act, Gardner gets into the act, and suddenly it's tense for England.
It was. I must add that Wareham's dismissal of Tammy Beaumont was perhaps the worst ball Wareham bowled all day. It was a lovely drag down, but a prime example of England players throwing away their wickets, because, you know, this isn't to say Ash Gardner...
It's hard to time that sometimes.
Oh, well, it is hard to time it, but maybe just think about it a little bit more. It's, you know, easier to set here, as I said, than playing on the pitch. But, you know, not to say that the Australian bowlers haven't done well, but England have primarily thrown away their wickets against spin. That is majorly because of the pressure being applied in those dot balls, in those singles, and squeezing and drying up those boundaries. But the shots England played, if, you know, I could list it with Beaumont, you've then got
Capsey to long on.
Capsey to long on. Yep. Jones a soft caught and bowled back to the bowl.
Back to Wareham again.
Back to Wareham. Eccleston playing the most frustrating knock where she was playing her role down to a T, accompanying Heather Knight, who was making some strange decisions to always run the first single of the over. Gosh, I can't even, I'll get angry speaking about that. And Eccleston then deciding to go, I've played my role perfectly, let's swing one out right into the hands of Cow. And then Sarah Glenn as well, you know, playing a naughty little nudge into the covers and a simple catch. It's so frustrating to say, especially at that point going, you've only got 2 more overs of Gardner, let's say, to get through. You know Jonassen's going to be bowling a bit at the death. Just keep knocking it for singles. You need less than 1 run a ball. And there's brain fades happening in the middle, which of course is understandable. And for me, I'm just excited that at least in Southampton, you could see an English team who maybe doesn't make any mistakes. Because if they can beat Australia making this many simple mistakes, then what could happen at Southampton if they put out their best performance?
Amazing to see Australia so off the boil, and their spinners were good. They did a job. And Shoot gets Danny Wyatt caught at backward point. That felt important as well. And so you get down to what, about 50 needed at 7 wickets down, and then about 30 needed at 8 wickets down. And this is when Kate Cross comes out to join Heather Knight. And you know that Lauren Bell can't bat at all.
I will just say, I bowled at Lauren Bell in the nets yesterday as a net bowler, and she can bat when you bowl her plenty of half volleys.
Right.
So I had faith in her, but
Sure.
I did want Kate Cross to do it, just for a bit of security.
And they manage to, I mean, Heather Knight doesn't do an awful lot of it because, like you say, she keeps taking 1, but she does smack a big 6 over the leg side. That helps take the pressure off, and Kate Cross pulls out a few of her shots at the end. They get home with about 11 balls to spare, 2 wickets in hand. The Ashes alive. I mean, 8 days ago, they needed to win 5 in a row and it felt impossible. Now, it doesn't feel impossible.
And it does go to show just how moody and pessimistic every single person in the media centre and the commentary boxes are, because all of us, you know, as soon as the test was lost, was going, oh, it's going to be a miserable 2 weeks, isn't it? Yeah, can't wait for this to be over. Rather than having that childlike belief that anything can happen. And I'm a bit worried this is going to rub off in my adult life now, that I'm going to be going, well, if England can turn things around, then I'm going to start earning a crazy salary. I'm going to find a flat in Bristol. That's not going to happen, is it? But it might do. It might do now. I'm going to bump into, I don't know, Chris Wokes at my local Sainsbury's, and we're going to become best friends, and we're going to run off to the Caribbean together. I believe it's going to happen now.
He's going to hold your hand on the plane
He's going to hold
when you're nervous.
He's going to get me some gluten-free digestives.
Like Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. Let's go to the Final Word Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, where we pick our most final word moments of the day. It's brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. I'm going back to London straight after this, so I could go there if I wanted to, for instance, go and hit some home runs at Home Run House, or if I wanted to do some rock climbing. These are the things you can do at the mall. Did you know this?
I didn't know you could do rock climbing at the mall.
Yeah.
I'm tempted now. I need to work on my upper body strength, so...
They've got sixes where you can get in the nets and play cricket. They've got the baseball place. They've got all-star lanes where you can do 10-pin bowling, and they've got rock climbing. Who knew? Now, what stood out for you? What was your Hall of Fame?
I mean, there's some obvious ones you could think of. The Sophie Eccleston catch at mid-on where she whipped that one hand up in the air.
Periscope catch.
Took a screamer, and then the classic strip board reaction of the scream of, how did I do that? Well, you're a very good cricketer, that's probably why you did it. But I'm not
Dropped the easy one at slip.
She did, but she likes to just, you know, deceive people into thinking she can't catch. My moment, though, it's got to be Heather Knight taking the single on the first ball of every over when England needed 50 to win. Yes, Sophie Eccleston's a very competent batter. Yes, Sarah Glenn's got a few runs this season, but it was such a screw you in the face of all traditional cricket tactics, which are used across club cricket across the country. She just took the single, watched from the non-strikers end, said, have fun against Ash Gardner, I'm going to be safely here. And it was brilliantly, you know what, there should be more of that in cricket, more selfish batting in cricket.
It was Steve Waugh, Heather Knight and Steve Waugh. The only difference is Steve Waugh has a Commonwealth Games silver medal and Heather Knight does not. Now, but look, she got him there, I'm going to go with Alice Capsey, who, I mean, can bowl off spin, but I would say you'd have to be generous to say that she's more than a part-timer. Like, she's a good part-timer, but she's not a frontline option. She bowled 9 overs on the spin through the middle of the innings and was not hit for a boundary until the 9th over. She bowled 8 overs without going for 4. just floating them up there. She doesn't even run up, she just walks up to the crease basically, like she's sneaking up on somebody, and then lobs them down the far end. She got a bit of turn, she got a bit of bounce, and she did a beautiful job.
Yes, and I'm a major, Alice Capsey fan. I adore her. I love that she has developed from essentially bowling pies to now bowling 9 over spells for England. I think for me that shows most importantly England's development from a point where last year at the ODI versus India at Canterbury, they were smacked for over 330, Harmon Creek Core, one of the best innings I've ever seen. And England used 5 bowlers. They had Lamb, they had Dunkley, they had Wyatt, they had Capsey in the team for that game, and they only used 5 bowlers. Here today, have a night, just a bit more flexible. And they played Capsey at the perfect time because they realised Australia were probably a few more wickets down than they would have liked.
Yep.
Let's sneak in some, and I don't think they were probably expecting to be able to sneak in so many, but she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, they were 4 down and it was just a bit too close to risk losing another one. Anyway, England stay alive. That's the most interesting part of this series, which means all to play for at Southampton. Maybe we'll get some rain if it's a washout, for instance. Well, then the entire trophy's on the line for the last game. We shall see. We'll be keeping a close eye on it. This has been The Final Word Women's Ashes Daily. Geoff Lemon, thanks to Melissa Story for co-hosting. Again, you can find us at patreon.com/thefinalword if you want to support the show. And other than that, we'll see you next time there's cricket, which will be very soon.